In Revenge of the Sith, we saw Anakin Skywalker fall.
I pledge myself to your teachings.
Good. The Force is strong with you. A powerful Sith you will become. Henceforth, you shall be known as Darth Vader.
He turns on Mace Windu, pledges himself to Palpatine, and marches on the Jedi Temple with a battalion of clones at his back. That moment fractures the galaxy. The Jedi are hunted, Padme dies, and Anakin becomes Darth Vader. But what if none of that happened? What if Anakin never turned? What if he reached his full potential the way the prophecy intended? In this version of the story, that's exactly what happens. And nothing turns out the same. Let's begin. He doesn't ignite his saber in the Chancellor's office. He doesn't cut off Mace Windu's hand. He doesn't kneel to Palpatine. In this timeline, Anakin walks into that room already transformed. He's been haunted for weeks by the same vision, the death of Padme. But something's different this time. The fear doesn't drown him, it clears him. Because this time, he talks to her. He tells Padme about the visions, about his fear of loss, about the choices he's facing. And she listens. No politics, no judgment. Just two people in love, clinging to hope. When he finally confronts Palpatine, he sees through the lies. Not because Obi-Wan told him, because his own heart is no longer a battlefield. Palpatine's voice is calm, almost seductive. Together we can cheat death, he says. You know the Jedi don't trust you, but I do. And Anakin just stares. Then he says something Palpatine never expected. I don't want to cheat death. I want to understand it. For the first time in years, Palpatine hesitates. The darkness recoils. The trap doesn't snap shut. Anakin doesn't destroy the Sith in some epic duel. He exposes them. Palpatine is arrested, brought before the Jedi Council, and the truth comes out in waves. Order 66 never happens. The clones never turn. And Anakin isn't broken. He's just getting started. He's 23 when the war ends. Younger than Obi-Wan was when he became a master. But Anakin doesn't want a title. He wants answers. He wants balance. Not just in the galaxy, but in himself. So he disappears. Not for months, for years. He travels beyond the Outer Rim, where the stars burn differently and the Force feels like a whisper from something ancient. He finds worlds untouched by the Republic, places that don't know the Jedi, but know the Force in other ways. He listens to monks who bend the wind, hunters who speak with beasts, elders who meditate in caves made of crystal. He stops being a Jedi. He starts being Anakin. And the Force responds, not with visions, not with warnings, but with clarity. He sees the dark side not as a seduction, but as a wound. He sees the Jedi's failures not as betrayal, but as blindness. He realizes power isn't something to hold, it's something to heal. By the time he returns, his presence is different. He walks like the wind moves around him. He speaks and rooms go quiet. The Council doesn't know what to make of him. Yoda says, "Changed you are." Anakin just smiles. "No, I've become who I always was." They offer him a seat on the Council again. He declines. "I'm not here to lead. I'm here to build what comes next." The first thing he does is find Ahsoka. She's been wandering too, ever since leaving the Order. They meet on a remote moon, in the middle of a lightning storm. She ignites her sabers before she even speaks. "You're not Vader," she says, "but you're not the Anakin I knew." And he steps forward, doesn't raise a blade, doesn't raise his voice. "I wasn't ready," he says, "but I am now, and I need your help." She lowers her weapons. "Just a little. You hurt me. I know. You abandoned everything. I did." And then, like the Force itself exhales, the storm breaks. They talk for hours, days. She tests him, challenges him, and eventually she forgives him. Not because he asks, because she sees it, the change, the clarity, the balance. Together, they begin the quiet work, not of rebuilding the Jedi, but redefining them. He returns to Ilum, but not to take crystals, he comes to listen. The Kyber crystals are screaming, centuries of war, of harvesting, of being forced into sabers, they're bleeding. He doesn't craft a new weapon. He meditates in the caverns for weeks, breathing in their pain. Then he does something no Jedi has done before. He purifies them. One by one, the red bleeds away. They turn white, like fresh snow under twin suns. He doesn't keep them. He leaves them there, cleansed. A gift for the next generation. And then he builds a new temple, not on Coruscant, on a quiet moon with no cities, no government, just peace. The new order doesn't wear robes. They wear what feels right. They don't start as Padawans, they start as people. The first lesson isn't lightsaber combat. It's how to sit in silence with your own thoughts. And when the first students arrive, it's not just Force sensitives. It's broken clones, former separatists, bounty hunters, children, survivors. Anakin welcomes them all, because he knows what it's like to be angry, to be lost, to feel too powerful and too alone. He teaches not to resist fear, but to understand it, not to bury the dark side, but to face it, integrate it, heal it. The new Jedi don't reject the past. They learn from it. Because their Grandmaster is the boy who was born a slave, the man who almost became a tyrant, the one who saw the edge of the abyss and turned away. The galaxy watches, stunned, but peace begins to spread. Systems once at war open trade, refugees return home, and the Force, it pulses with balance. But not everyone is happy. Whispers rise from the unknown regions, of a Sith cult that escaped the Purge, of a shadow even Anakin couldn't sense. And at the heart of it, Maul. Not a warlord, not a madman, something worse. A believer. He's building something. Not an empire, but a religion. One where pain is sacred and hate is holy, and his eyes are locked on one prize. Anakin Skywalker. Because Maul believes Anakin is the key, not to balance, but to breaking it. And this time, he's not alone. Because Dooku survived, and he's been waiting. They don't come as armies, they come as echoes. Rumors at first, villages emptied. Force nexuses corrupted. Kyber fields shattered into dust. Maul has grown quiet. Too quiet. That silence spreads like rot. Dooku is different. He doesn't build a throne, he builds doubt. He starts appearing on fringe systems, hollows, hushed teachings. He no longer preaches Sith supremacy, he speaks of balance through control. He offers systems, safety, structure, clarity. And when people refuse him, he doesn't strike them down. He lets them live with their fear. Anakin doesn't hunt him. He sends envoys, Jedi, diplomats, even Ahsoka, but none of them return. So finally, he goes himself. He finds Dooku meditating in the ruins of an old temple, alone, waiting. "You could have ruled the galaxy," Dooku says. "I'd rather heal it," Anakin replies. They don't duel, not at first, they debate. The sky darkens as they speak, lightning cracks. It's the war of ideologies, more than blades. But Dooku, once elegant, now burns with twisted wisdom. He believes the galaxy doesn't want peace, it wants certainty. Anakin listens, doesn't interrupt, and then calmly says, "Certainty without compassion is just control." That's when Dooku strikes. But Anakin doesn't draw his saber. He disarms him, gently, one movement, one breath, and then he does something unimaginable. He kneels. Not in surrender, in forgiveness. "I'm not your enemy," he says. "You are." For a flicker, Dooku's eyes break. The Sith teachings tremble. But it's too late. Dooku's heart has calcified around regret. He dies not as a warrior, but as a man who never escaped himself. But Maul? Maul is waiting. He doesn't face Anakin in a throne room. He faces him in a cave, deep in a corrupted world that breathes ash. The walls drip with Kyber blood. It's a place built from pain. This time, Anakin draws his blade. Maul doesn't mock, doesn't monologue. He just charges. Their duel isn't flashy, it's personal. Anakin calm as still water, Maul, rage barely contained. Mid-fight, Maul screams, "You were supposed to break! Why didn't you break?" Anakin answers between strikes, "Because I loved something more than I feared." The fight ends not with death, but silence. Anakin disarms Maul too, but doesn't kill him. Instead, he places a hand on his head, not in aggression, in empathy. And Maul, for the first time in his life, weeps. Not for pain, for release. He's taken back to the new Jedi Temple, not as a prisoner, but as proof. Proof that healing is possible, even for the most broken. The galaxy doesn't erupt in celebration. It exhales. For the first time in generations, peace isn't enforced, it's chosen. And Anakin? He disappears again. This time, not to learn. This time to mourn. He returns to Tatooine, not as the boy who was a slave, not as the Jedi, not even as the chosen one, just as a man. He visits his mother's grave, sits there for 3 days, says nothing. And then he goes further. He travels into the unknown regions, not for war, not for peace. For understanding. Because something's been calling him. The place has no name, just sensation. The Force is thick there, alive. A storm, not of weather, but of memory. Anakin steps into it and finds ghosts. Qui-Gon, Yoda, Windu, even Luke, though Luke hasn't been born yet. It's not a vision, it's not a dream. It's Mortis. But not the Mortis he once saw. This one is ancient, pure, unbound by time. And in its center, the Father waits. Not the same Father. The Force's will given shape, balance, made flesh. "You've done what none could," he tells Anakin. "You've walked the edge without falling." Anakin looks around. "Then why am I here?" The Father doesn't smile, doesn't frown, just speaks. Because it's not over. There's something deeper. Older than Sith. Older than Jedi. The Force isn't just light and dark, it's life and decay. Creation and entropy. And something is out of balance. The wills appear, not as people, but as presence. They speak not in words, but in memory. They show Anakin everything, every life he's touched, every chain he's broken, every scar he's left. And then they offer him a choice. Return and grow old, watch the world evolve. Or become something more. A guardian, not of people, of the Force itself. He hesitates. He thinks of Padme, of Luke and Leia, though he hasn't met them, of laughter, of silence, of being human. But then he remembers the pain he felt that day on Mustafar, when he almost lost himself. He chooses. Not sacrifice. Not salvation. Something greater. He lets go. Ahsoka feels it first. She's teaching a youngling when the air shifts. The trees bend toward the sky. The crystals in her saber hum like music, and in her heart she knows. He's gone, but not dead. She looks up and smiles, because she understands. Anakin Skywalker didn't fall, didn't fade. He became the embodiment of balance, the Force incarnate, not a ghost, not a legend, something new, something whole. And the galaxy? It keeps spinning, but with a little more light and a lot less fear. There's a myth passed down in whispers, long after the Jedi stopped wearing robes and the Sith became little more than shadows in old stories. A tale of a man who reached beyond life, not to escape death, but to cradle the Force in his hands and reshape it for everyone. But that tale didn't start on some holy mountaintop. It started with a kid who liked to race. Anakin Skywalker's first communion with the Force wasn't in a temple. It was in the blinding wind of a pod racer cockpit, where instinct became prophecy and speed turned to silence. That moment never left him. It sat in his bones, humming louder as the years passed. Every battle, every scar, every temptation, it all led back to that sacred breath of perfect stillness. So when the Wills asked him to choose, he already knew the answer. He didn't become the Father because he was flawless. He became the Father because he had known failure and risen above it. And so the transformation began. Not in body, in presence. He no longer walked, he echoed. No longer spoke, he resonated. Anakin became the keystone holding the Force together. The light and dark no longer fought, they danced, bending around him in a spiral of endless becoming. And Mortis, once a planet, now a place outside of place, flourished. The daughter returned, the son too, but not as adversaries, as archetypes, finally guided by a center that didn't crave control or renounce passion. And Anakin stood at their center, not as ruler or god, but as balance itself. He didn't command, he listened. The galaxy outside didn't know what had happened, but it felt it. Storms passed sooner. Worlds once choked by war began to bloom. Species long hidden in exile began to return to the stars. Kyber crystals grew in places they'd never grown before, humming softly in perfect harmony. Ahsoka led a new generation of Force sensitives, not Jedi, not Sith, just seekers. Some held sabers, others held paintbrushes, instruments, datapads. They didn't worship the Force, they walked with it. And in rare moments of great need, when the Force itself trembled, they felt something familiar. A calming hand on their shoulder, a whisper in the wind, a flash of golden blue light in the periphery. He never intervened directly. That wasn't the Father's way. But his presence was enough. Entire wars were prevented because a single senator paused before speaking. Civilizations were saved because one pilot dared to trust their instinct. Children with burning questions found answers in dreams they couldn't explain. All because Anakin had chosen transcendence over vengeance, balance over power, love over fear. Luke Skywalker would one day be born. And he would still face challenges, but not the same ones. There would be no Palpatine, no Death Star, just the long, hard work of guiding a galaxy that was learning how to live again. Leia Organa would still become a leader, but her fight would be in Senate halls, not battlefields. And the name Skywalker? It would echo not as legend of a fallen Jedi or redeemed villain, but as the heartbeat of an age where the Force belonged to everyone, not just temples, not just bloodlines. Everyone. Anakin's final form wasn't flame or starlight or ghost. It was grace. He had found the truth the Jedi feared and the Sith twisted. The Force doesn't want to be dominated. It wants to be understood. And the one who truly listens, who lets go of control, rage, fear, prophecy, becomes its truest expression. In the ancient center of Mortis, where past and future overlap, where time folds like fabric, there's a tree. No roots, no branches, just light that bends in both directions. And beneath it, if you're quiet enough, if you close your eyes and forget who you were, you might hear a voice. Not booming, not distant, warm, steady, familiar, saying, "Don't be afraid, you already know the way." What if Anakin reached his full potential? He did. Just not in the way the galaxy expected. Not with domination or flames or a throne of broken stars. He reached it when he chose mercy instead of might. When he saw himself not as a savior, but as a student of the Force, always learning, always becoming. He reached it when he stopped running from the pain and let it become light. Because true power wasn't turning from darkness, it was integrating it. And becoming the bridge so no one else had to fall. Not again. Not ever. If you enjoyed this alternative timeline, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more Star Wars stories, and may the Force be with you.